Welcome back for another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about something pretty cool.
Yeah.
High-end watchmaking.
Oh, nice.
But specifically, we're going to be looking at an American watchmaker called RGM.
Okay.
And even more specifically, we're going to be looking at their 801 Classic Enamel watch.
Sounds good.
Now, we pulled most of our info today from this article
Okay.
called RGM 801 Classic Enamel, a compact American watch.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that title really caught my eye.
Yeah, why is that?
Compact American watch.
Interesting.
It's not something you hear every day, is it?
Not really, no.
Most of the time when you think about luxury watches,
Right.
you're thinking about big
Okay.
Swiss brands.
For sure.
So to see this American company making these kind of smaller watches is
Yeah.
really cool.
I think it speaks to a trend we're seeing.
What's that?
More and more people are looking at independent brands,
Mhm.
and they're kind of moving away from those oversized watches.
Oh.
Yeah, they're looking for something a little more elegant.
Yeah, I can see that.
Something that's really well made
Yeah.
with a more classic design.
So let's start with the company itself.
Okay.
RGM,
Yeah.
founded in 1992 by Roland G. Murphy.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
What makes RGM unique in the watchmaking world?
Well, one of the biggest things is that they're a vertically integrated manufacturer.
Now, what does that mean exactly?
Basically, it means they make almost every single part of their watches in-house.
Really?
Yeah, the movement, the dial, even the hands.
Wow. It's pretty rare, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and especially in the U.S.
Right.
They're actually the only vertically integrated watch manufacturer in the entire country.
That's incredible.
It really is.
I mean, to have that much control over the entire process
Yeah.
must be amazing.
It allows them to really ensure the quality of their watches,
Mm.
and it also helps them preserve those traditional watchmaking techniques.
The ones that are kind of disappearing because of mass production. And speaking of traditional techniques,
Yeah.
the watch we're talking about today, the 801 Classic Enamel,
Right.
it features a dial made using Grand Fou enameling,
Ah, yes, gram fruit.
which I have to admit I don't know a lot about.
Well, it's a pretty amazing process.
Tell me more.
It's French for great fire,
Okay.
and it basically involves fusing glass powder onto a metal surface at super high temperatures.
Wow.
It takes a lot of skill and patience.
I bet.
You have to fire each layer multiple times to get that right depth and color.
That's intense.
It is. And the dial on this watch isn't even just one piece of enamel.
Really?
Nope, it's even more complicated.
How so?
The dial is made up of 3 separate enamel components.
3?
Yeah, the chapter ring, the central panel, and then the small seconds subdial.
Wow.
And each one has to be fired individually, and then they have to be perfectly aligned during assembly.
It's like a tiny puzzle.
It is, in a way.
So not only is it technically challenging, but it's also incredibly precise.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of what makes a Grand Fou enamel dial so special.
You know what else is interesting about this watch?
What's that?
The fact that the article specifically calls it compact.
Right. And that's a pretty big deal when you look at the history of this model.
You mean?
Well, the older version of the 801 Classic Enamel,
Mm-hmm.
it was considered a bit too big by some people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they released a skeletonized version,
Uh-huh.
and that was even bigger.
Oh, wow.
But this new version,
Yeah.
it's been re-released in a 40-millimeter case.
Okay.
So it's much more wearable now.
Yeah, 40 millimeters is pretty classic size for a watch.
It is, yeah.
Do you think they made that change because of the trends we were talking about earlier?
I think so.
People wanting smaller watches.
Exactly. They want something a bit more vintage inspired.
And I have to say, looking at pictures of this watch,
Yeah,
the smaller size really makes it look elegant.
it does, yeah.
It lets the details of the dial and the movement really stand out,
It's a good example of how sometimes less is more.
especially when it comes to luxury.
I agree.
So they shrunk down the case?
Yep.
Did they make any other changes to the design?
Actually, yeah, a few.
Like what?
Well, the new version has a matte satin brushed finish
Okay.
on the case bands.
Uh-huh.
So it gives it a more modern look.
More understated.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a...
And they also got rid of the fluted case bands.
Oh, from the older version?
Now it's just smooth sides.
Oh, okay.
Makes the watch look even sleeker.
Nice. And what about the crystal?
Oh, yeah. It's box-shaped sapphire crystal now.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a nice touch.
Gives it that little bit of vintage charm.
For sure, they really managed to blend those different design elements well.
Classic and modern, all at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really nice balance.
I mean, it doesn't scream for attention.
Nope.
But when you look at it closely,
Yeah.
you can see all the thought that went into it.
Exactly. It's all about the detail.
Yeah, it's like a really well-tailored suit.
I like that analogy.
Understated elegance, but with a focus on quality.
And speaking of quality, we should talk about the movement a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
The caliber 801.
Ooh, yeah, that's the heart of the watch, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I always find it fascinating.
What's that?
You know how these little machines work?
Oh, yeah, the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So what's the story with the caliber 801?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It was introduced in 2007.
Okay.
It was RGM's first in-house movement.
So, like a big deal for them.
Huge.
Yeah. I remember reading that it was the first serially produced American watch movement since 1969.
You got it.
I mean, that's a long time.
It is, yeah. For decades, American watchmaking was kind of dormant.
Wow.
A lot of brands were using Swiss movements.
Right.
So the caliber 801 was kind of a statement.
Like a revival.
Exactly.
A resurgence of American watchmaking.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is, and it's a manual winding movement, too.
Which adds to that whole traditional feel, right? But I did read that while RGM says their movements are 90% American-made,
Right.
some parts are sourced from elsewhere,
Yeah, that's true.
like the balance spring and the jewels. So even an American watch
Yeah.
can be kind of global.
In a way.
Yeah. It's interesting how watchmaking is like that,
It is. It's a global craft, for sure.
with different regions specializing in certain things.
Yeah, and for RGM to be able to do so much in-house,
Yeah.
it really shows their dedication.
To American watchmaking.
Absolutely.
I mean, reviving something like that
Yeah.
must be really difficult.
It's a challenge for sure, finding the right people building
Yeah.
up the infrastructure.
It takes time,
It does.
but it's obviously something they're passionate about.
Absolutely. So getting back to the caliber 801,
Yeah, let's dive back in.
what are some of the things that make it stand out technically?
Well, I know it has a slower beat rate,
Yeah, that's right. It beats at 2.5 hertz.
which is 18,000 vibrations per hour.
You got it. And that slower beat rate actually helps with the longevity and accuracy of the watch.
Really?
Yeah, and it also gives you that smooth sweep of the seconds hand.
One that you just get lost watching.
Exactly.
It's almost hypnotic.
It is. Yeah.
It's not just about looks.
Nope, it actually serves a purpose.
That's so cool how form and function work together in watches.
It is one of the things I love about them.
What else about the caliber 801?
Well, it has a power reserve of 44 hours,
So I can take it off for a day and a half.
and it'll still be going strong,
That's pretty impressive.
especially for a manual winding watch.
Yeah, for sure.
They really optimize the energy efficiency on this one.
But you know what really catches my eye?
What's that?
When I see pictures of the caliber 801,
Yeah.
it's the decorations.
Oh, yeah. The hand finishing.
It's like a little work of art.
It is. They use all sorts of traditional techniques.
Like what?
Well, there's circular damascening, chamfering Geneva stripes, blued screws.
Now, I have to admit, I'm not familiar with all those terms.
Oh, of course.
Can you break them down for me?
Yeah, so circular damascening,
Mm-hmm.
it creates that swirling pattern on the metal.
Okay.
And chamfering is when they bevel the edges of the bridges and plates,
Huh?
makes them look all polished and refined.
Okay.
And then Geneva stripes are those straight parallel lines.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
They add a nice touch of texture.
Very elegant.
Right, and then blued screws.
Yeah, what about those?
Well, they heat the screws up until they turn blue.
Oh, wow.
It helps prevent corrosion.
So it's practical, too.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much work goes into these movements.
It is, yeah. It takes years of experience to get it right.
It's real artistry.
Definitely.
So we've got this watch
Mhm.
with all this history and craftsmanship,
Yeah.
but they don't just stop there.
What do you mean?
They actually offer customization options, too.
That's right.
I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can really personalize the caliber 801.
So what kind of things can you customize?
Well, for one, you can get hacking seconds.
Now, for someone who doesn't know much about watches,
Sure.
what does that mean?
It means you can stop the seconds hand
Oh, okay.
by pulling out the
It
crown.
makes it easier to set the time.
Exactly.
Oh, I see.
And then there's another option,
Okay.
wolf's teeth winding wheels.
Wolf's teeth.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
They're these specially shaped winding wheels,
Uh-huh.
and the teeth look like, well, wolf's teeth.
Okay.
It's a pretty old technique.
Interesting.
Makes the winding mechanism more efficient.
So it's not just for looks.
Nope, it actually has a function.
It's like they always find a way to blend those two things.
You do?
The practical and the aesthetic.
For sure.
What other customization options are there?
Well, you can also get custom engravings
Oh, wow.
on the balance bridge.
So like your initials.
Yeah, or a special date.
That's really cool.
It makes the watch even more personal.
It really does.
It's not just an object anymore. It's something that means something to you.
I bet that's only possible because they make so few watches every year.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
They make less than 300, right?
That's right. It allows them to give each watch that individual attention.
It's a completely different world from those big brands.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about the dial again, because I love how it mixes vintage and modern.
It's a cool combination, right?
Yeah, you have the Roman numerals for the hours,
Very classic.
and then the minutes are in these bold, red Arabic numerals.
It's a nice contrast.
It is, and then there's that black railway track for the minutes.
With those little pyramids every 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
They really catch the light.
You.
Add some visual interest.
It's all about the details, right?
It is, and we can't forget the small second subdial.
Recessed into the dial.
Gives it some depth.
It's a beautiful watch.
And then there are the hands.
Oh yeah, those blue Breguet hands.
Very
They're
elegant.
named after Abraham Louis Breguet, right?
That's right, one of the most famous watchmakers ever.
What makes them special?
Well, they have those hollow apple-shaped tips,
Oh,
and the fact that they're blued.
bluing seems to be a big part of watchmaking.
It is, yeah. It's both functional and beautiful.
Protecting the steel from corrosion.
And making it look amazing.
It's like a little secret hidden in plain sight.
You know something else that's interesting?
What's that?
The Caliber 801 actually pays tribute to some classic American watches.
Really?
Yeah, the shapes of the bridges are inspired by the Keystone Howard Watch Company's Edward Howard model.
I've never heard of that one.
It was a really popular pocket watch back in the late 1800s.
A pocket watch.
Yeah, and RGM took inspiration from that for their modern movement.
It's cool how they weave that history into their designs.
It is, and then there's the wind and click.
What about that?
It was inspired by the Illinois Bun Special motor barrel.
The Bun Special.
Yeah, it was used in a lot of railroad watches.
Railroad watches, those must have been super accurate.
They were, yeah, they had to be.
I mean, timekeeping was essential for the railroads.
Absolutely. So by using that design element,
Yeah.
RGM is connecting their watch to that history.
It's like every little detail has a story behind it.
It does. Yeah, it's what makes watches so fascinating.
So we've talked about the history, the
Yes,
craftsmanship, the technical details, the customization options.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one thing we haven't mentioned,
Oh, yeah.
the price.
The price.
Yeah. How much does this watch cost? Well, the RGM 801 Classic Enamel with all the bells and whistles,
Yeah.
it'll set you back about $14,900.
Okay, that's not exactly cheap.
No,
But
but you're not buying a mass-produced watch here.
right, this is something special.
Exactly. It's handcrafted using those
Yeah.
traditional techniques.
The best materials.
It's for people who appreciate that level of quality.
People who value craftsmanship.
Definitely it's a statement piece.
Yeah, it's not just about telling time.
Nope, it's about something more.
It's an investment
In craftsmanship,
in history.
for sure.
You know, it's funny.
What's that?
We're talking about this incredibly intricate watch.
Yeah, with all this history and tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But we're living in this world that's all about digital technology.
It's a strange contrast, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I think a lot of people are struggling with that these days.
Like trying to find a balance.
Yeah, we're surrounded by all these gadgets
Right.
that are supposed to make our lives better.
Easier, more connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I sometimes wonder if we're losing something,
Like what?
a connection to the physical world.
Yeah, to things that are real and tangible.
Exactly. And I think that's why we're seeing this renewed interest in things like handcrafted goods.
Yeah, people want something authentic.
Something with a story behind it.
Something that's made to last.
Right. And I think RGM really gets that.
They're not trying to be the next Apple Watch.
No, they're doing their own thing.
Offering something different.
A connection to history and artistry.
Yeah, a slower pace.
Like a breath of fresh air.
It's about appreciating the moment.
Enjoying the beauty of something that's well made.
Yeah, and owning something that has meaning.
And I think that's what makes the 801 Classic Enamel so special.
It's a statement.
About what you value.
What's important to you?
In a world that's full of distractions.
It's a choice.
To step back from the digital noise.
And appreciate something timeless.
Something that will last.
That's what true luxury is all about.
Investing in things that have meaning.
Things that tell a story.
Things that will stand the test of time.
Well said.
Dang.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the RGM 801 Classic Enamel,
Yeah.
I hope you've gained a new appreciation for this kind of watchmaking.
The craftsmanship, the artistry.
It's really something special.
It is. And maybe you'll even be inspired to explore the world of mechanical watches a little more.
There's so much to discover.
There is so much history and innovation.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you then.